I am so pleased to have my special guest today come back for a second time because I really wanted to discuss a really important subject. This is Sarah Klaiber, author of Treasures, which I think is an amazing book because the reason why she wrote it was as an apology to her son and daughter for being innocent witnesses to her battle with depression. And I love how you said that, innocent witnesses, which I believe a lot of our children, mental illness or not, they are innocent witnesses, whether it's to
Yes.
arguments, whether it's to whatever we do during, our parenting journey. And then her
Mhm.
other book, Beautiful you dedicated to celebrating the differences, the strengths and differences. And I believe many of us have that I'm not good enough because we don't celebrate our differences. And we really do believe something is wrong with us, and that is transferred maybe subconsciously to our children. And then we wonder why they don't believe in themselves. So the
Right.
topic today is, how do we have healthy relationships with our children when we are going through, sometimes it could be stress, sometimes it could be, it doesn't have to be depression or anxiety. I mean, Sarah and I do share that. um what is it, it's not really a weakness, but it could be because it does negatively impact parenting or even interactions. We are talking about how simple interactions to us can be very challenging because we take things personally. So, as a parent, how do we handle, like, suppose you're a mom, you're upset, you're late, and then this tiny, tiny, innocent interaction with your child turns into World War III. And, once you're in it, and I was asking you earlier, once you're in it, how do you have awareness and how do you even pivot so that it doesn't damage the relationship? Because sometimes if you have multiple things like that, you and I were talking about it, there's like parental alienation, or maybe I wonder if now there's maybe children in alienation because you think, I can't do this, I don't want to talk to you for a long, long time,
Mhm.
maybe
Mhm.
forever. You just have those thoughts. How do you deal with
Yeah.
it, Sarah?
I the first thing that I think is important that we just got done talking about is, and everybody's situation is going to be different when it comes to the age. What is an appropriate age to really talk about what mental illness is? Um, does it start with, mommy is different, but I don't know why? And does it start with using words just as sad, worried? And then when do you take it to the next level where, the word sad is replaced with self harm, um, anxiety, suicidal ideations, and things? So um, I think the ultimate thing is being honest, but with an appropriate dialogue that represents the age that they're currently at, so that they are seeing you as somebody who is open, honest, brave, all the characteristics that a parent should be, whether they battle mental illness or not. Um, you know, we all have hard days. We all, get tired. We all get crabby. But when you are experiencing those things and battling a silent demon constantly, you are going to be a different parent. Okay. I don't care how much you try to deny it. I don't care how much you try to pretend, you're going to be a different parent. So I think it's very important that you talk about it in an appropriate way. Um, if something is said or done, you apologize for it and you just try to explain, this is how I was feeling. If does that make sense?
Definitely. How would you define mental illness, though?
Um, what do you mean? I think there's so many
Well,
different.
maybe explaining it to, say, preteen. If you just have a teenager and they know that something is wrong, they
Mhm.
know that you're different. Because my daughter, she's 25, but age 4, she shared that she felt responsible for my happiness.
Mhm.
I don't know why, and at that point my dad said, you know, she knows you're sad, but underlying message was, that's not good because she's worried about
Yes.
you, right? So you think you're
Yeah.
guilty,
Mhm.
but how do you
I'm very
explain?
um, I'm very grateful, I'm sure you can agree. Today, day and age, the technology, the internet, all the research that can be done to validate the seriousness of mental illness. Years ago, when I was in high school, I knew that you know, felt different. I knew that I acted different, but I really didn't have the resources to learn that this is a real thing and that I'm not alone. And,
Hmm. Hmm.
even the science behind it, whether it is, a genetic disposition or whether it is that lack of serotonin or,
Right.
whatever. And it doesn't really matter. What matters is that we do have a mental illness, and it's an illness that is not seen, and therefore there's a stigma attached, and it's often more difficult to explain. So I'm grateful that as my kids grown, they were able to. I mean, they're on social media. They have their access to everything. They were like any typical teenager that is constantly on.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I know that they had opportunities to learn about things and um, other friends and people that were in their lives that also struggled and talked about it. So I depended on that a lot. I depended on the things that they learned without me on their own. Um, and then I just kind of added my own layer to it.
But once they understand, it's a probably a little easier, right? Because then they know what you're going through.
Yes, I think that now they definitely understand. Um, I think that they understand, but I do feel that, and maybe this is me, just like we were talking earlier about, the guilt and everything. But I think that they will always wish things were different. Um, they know that a lot of circumstances, past, present, and maybe to come, are the reason of my mental illness, or a reaction, um, an action, something that was said, something that wasn't said. We
Hmm.
talked about
Hmm.
just the silence and the distancing and things like that. So yes, they definitely do understand. I definitely think they do accept, which I'm happy for. But I know in my heart they wish things were different.
And how does that make you feel? Because I've been struggling with it.
Incredibly guilty.
Yes.
Incredibly guilty. We talked about the I'm sorries and how many, and you were talking about the age and at what age you did. I spent my 30s screwing up. I spent my 40s apologizing. And it's actually 2011 was my rock bottom. So I'm in my 10th year. That's 10 years of apologizing and trying to get better and and rebuild relationships and prove that I really am a good person. When is enough enough?
Exactly.
When is it okay to say, all right, I'm done, give me a life sentence or, try to like me again?
Well, and needing that approval because in the way that you want the approval, because we were talking about earlier, they might act like everything is okay, they accept your apology, but we continue to beat ourselves up because we were not maybe the mother we thought we should be. And then we
Yeah.
don't you think that when you hear, well, it should have been this way, or you shouldn't have argued about finances in front of us. Immediately, I go into I royally messed up my children,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can't take that back. When you say a
And you know
mean
what?
thing.
I think um, a lot of this is probably us. For all I know, everything is fine and everything is normal.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
That's what I was
and it
thinking about.
probably is, but I'm the one that's carrying this,
Yes.
that this feeling of still waking up and being an awful person. And for all I know, th- that's not the case. you
When it's
know.
in our head, because last night, yeah, everything was fine. And I'm watching them laughing and we're sharing. And I'm talking about, my Kauai trip. And then I'm thinking, is everything really fine? And it's just all in my head? Because just
Yeah.
like the night before, there was like a huge, disagreement, and now does it just suddenly go away? Or are they just pretending and they're not? And then you and I very, very analytical, and we'll replay the
Yes.
conversation, we'll put meaning to it, and then it might it might have dissipated.
And we're both overthinkers too. So,
Yes,
what for the normal, and I don't even really like to use that word, but for,
right.
for somebody that doesn't battle, let me rephrase that. For somebody that doesn't battle, it's over, it's done. They probably forgot about it and they didn't even think it was that big of a deal. But for
Yes,
people like you or I, we're still closing our eyes and seeing their body language and analyzing exactly what voice inflection they used and wondering what they still might be thinking. And it lasts for days.
it does.
It lasts for days. Yes. And then, when you want to, talk about it, then you're annoying. And
Yeah.
like, really, like,
Wait, that happened like days ago or years ago. I just brought up something that I felt really guilty about, and she said, "You're still thinking about that?" That was like 15 years ago. But it was the
mhm.
first time I had sworn, because she had made a mistake. We wash rice, and she made a mistake and put water in the actual pot, not the pot with rice. You put
Oh, yeah.
rice in the pot, you put water in it, then you put that thing in. Well, she put water directly, and it messed up my planner.
Hmm.
I only have one written planner, and everything was just watery, like,
Oh,
yeah. And I lost it. I
yeah.
lost it.
Yeah.
And then I think I said, what were you thinking? And and she goes, yeah, I remember thinking, you never, my friend said, did you teach her? And I said, I thought she knew, because I thought she watched me all this time. But did you
Hmm.
tell her step by step? No.
Hmm.
And then I thought, you know, and then you replay that when she was, it was 15 years ago. Or we went
Yeah.
to the grocery store and I said, get hamburger meat. And I forgot that it says ground beef,
Hmm.
right? It doesn't say hamburger meat.
Hmm.
There's no hamburger meat. There's no hamburger meat. What do you mean? What's that? What doesn't say hamburger meat? It says ground beef. Yeah, because ground beef is hamburger meat. Well, you never taught me that.
You're
What?
supposed to know that, right?
You're supposed
That's
to know that.
interesting. Um, that's very interesting. That's one difference that you and I have y- when it's somebody, close to me and it was clearly something that wasn't done on purpose, like a mistake. I I don't. I actually feel bad for them. Like if a mistake was made, and I will say, did you do that on purpose? Did you plan to do that? And I will never be angry at a
It's an
mistake.
accident.
Yeah. But there's shoes in the middle of the floor. Oh, I'll lose my stuff.
Well, because I think you're in the middle of your
Clutter.
task. Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
clutter.
Oh, oh, it's the worst. Yeah, I'll even clutter that's not, yeah. So I'll blow up over stuff that, they didn't even that they didn't even do. But if it was like something that was like clearly an accident, I've never had an issue with that. In fact, I find myself feeling bad for the person that it happened to.
Well, see, and that's compassion.
Yeah.
Jess and I were talking about it yesterday, that it truly is. Once you have compassion and you put yourself in your mom's shoes, or your child's shoes, you realize, well, I can't fault her for not being compassionate, because they were never taught compassion. Or the reason my mom is, like you and I were talking about, we have, moms who, when we had little ones, did you do this? Did you do that? Or it's cold, or she put socks on. But
Hmm.
then we don't realize that what they went through. And when you talk about generational trauma, it doesn't have
Hmm.
to be trauma, but if they're, I don't know, you don't know how the great grandparents taught their parents, and then it's this worry. And I find myself doing that today. Do you find that, like, you worry about something that is not even your stuff? My husband was like, that's on her, she doesn't have her name badge for work. And I said, but
Hmm.
it was on the sofa. Should I remind her? No. If she
Yes,
forgets it at
1000%.
home, if she gets, and I go, yeah, I know I'm not supposed to remind her, but what if it goes under the sofa? What if she can't see it? What if she needs that, And then you think, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff on my plate, but I'm worrying about something that's not even mine. And we are
Yeah.
not alone, because I know when I coach parents, it's like they forgot their water bottle. I was
Hmm.
I went and I dropped it off. They forgot their homework. I had a mom, Sarah, who actually, it was a special needs child. She saw everyone holding posters, and it was supposed to be like a project. She went home, did the project, pasted all that stuff, cut it up, dropped it off, and then was so upset and resentful that she said, you know what, Dad and I are going to celebrate your birthday. You're going to stay home and we're celebrating because you did not do that project. So it's not even
Mm,
tied in. You know how they say right now the consequence has to be tied in
yeah.
with the whatever behavior that they did. And it was irresponsibility. Natural consequence should have been you get an F, right? Directly.
Underlying, isn't it attached to our self-worth? Because I had
That's what it
tendencies
is. That's
that
what it
that
is.
that's exactly what it is. Because I'm super guilty for that. I've had my best year ever with that, but I'm still not perfect. But I wanted to control everything. I'm guilty of writing an essay or two for the
Yeah,
homework
well,
assignment.
I've done where they're supposed to do a poster and all the pictures that she saved were not
Yeah.
saved. And then when she printed them, something happened and it's like 30 minutes before school. So I'm like, you print it out, I'll cut it. And in
Yep.
the process, you're like, I shouldn't be doing this. What am I teaching her? I'm not teaching her accountability, but you get into this, this is gonna get done because
Because
it is gonna get
it's attached to your happiness, and
done.
you know,
It is.
the control is attached to your self-worth. And going back to how I was telling you how I handle when people clearly make, mistake or an innocent, accident that happens. I know how badly I beat myself up for even, the most innocent of mistakes. I just I spiral very quickly. And I'm being repetitive, but it's attached to self-worth. And so I don't want somebody else feeling that way. I don't want them to not be prepared or to feel like they messed up, because I feel that pain, and I don't
Yes.
want them feeling that pain. But they don't battle mental illness, so they're not going to. But you know,
And that's the thing. Yeah, because I think as a mom, you think, wait a minute, I can't let them fail because what if they can't handle
no.
failure? And my
Mm-mm,
dad said that because I, attempted to take my life at 30, he blamed himself for not teaching me how to fail. So he said, if I don't tutor my daughter, if she fails, what's going to happen? We were right outside of a
mhm.
restaurant, and I said, it doesn't look like you have faith in her. And there was silence. And then the family came back and we went into the restaurant and we never talked about it again,
Yeah,
you know? But the
yeah.
argument was you tutor all these kids, you're not tutoring your own daughter. And I said, I want her to be an independent learner. She
Uh-huh.
can do it herself. And if she
Mhm.
makes mistakes, she makes mistakes. And his whole thing was, you are being neglectful because you are not tutoring your own child. And that today sticks to me. Like, am I not right? Because there's a fine line between enabling and doing too much
Right.
and then being totally hands off. And that balance can cause you to go, I mean, talk about if you're analytical and you're
Mhm.
replaying and you're wondering, do I do this or is it too much? You
It's
find
that
your
loop that you and I talked about when we were last together. That
yes,
that loop that just keeps going and going and going. I mentioned earlier that I've been getting a lot better. I can with my son, and who doesn't live home anymore, and it's hard. I want to call him every hour and make sure of this and this and this, but I can't do that. I can't do that. He's a young man, but it didn't, just because I am not calling him as much as I used to, and because I am letting him make decisions, and it doesn't mean my loop stopped. I'm still up at night wondering if he's alive, and I'm not exaggerating. Making smart decisions, keeping up his schoolwork, if his apartment is clean,
if there's clutter.
decluttered, what he ate, if it was healthy. My loop didn't start, that didn't stop. Um, in fact, it got a little bit louder because I can't release, and I can't, I can't get my temporary satisfaction from hearing his voice every hour like I depended on. But that was straining our relationship. And I needed to make a decision. Do I want to make things worse and, make him run even farther away? Or, do I back off a little bit, suffer in silence, and see what happens?
So how do you cope with that? There are thousands of us out there, mothers who actually share, some moms have shared, why doesn't it bother my husband as much? He says it bothers them, but he's like, you know what? Let them go. Remember how we were at that age. They need to learn, and they just seem to let it go. But as a mother, for some reason, that loop can cause us major stress because we have our own stress. And then when that component is added in, sometimes it's paralyzing. I don't
Yeah,
know how you know?
I think that with a lot of spouses who are married to somebody who battles mental illness, I think whether they realize it or not, they are forced to play a role of security. Okay, so I think that maybe there might be some things that my husband equally worries about. What is he going to say to me? Yes, you are right. He's probably making really
Yeah,
poor choices, and I'm up at night too worrying about him. Really?
yeah, you would not do, yeah, that
So
would not be nice,
no,
comforting to
no, no,
say to
no.
us.
So I think our spouses are forced to play a role to calm us down and to be the rock and to be the sounding board, but to keep us grounded. But I think they have some worry of their own. But if you don't battle, you're able to control it. You're able to take that thought, like my husband does, swipe it out. Just the thought is there, but it doesn't control me. Um, where you and I, the loop, and we haven't yet found out how to break it.
I love what you just said. We allow thoughts to control us. And that was one of my parenting tips is like teaching our children not to believe every thought that enters their brain
Mhm.
and to really, because that's what causes us stress. You believe that negative thought so much and it becomes part of you.
It
It's almost like
becomes
part of
part
your,
of you.
yeah.
It is the truth. It's not just a thought. It is fact-based truth, um, that's that's just created by really, really ugly things.
But once you think that it's true, what happens when it's a young child, then they grow up still believing that untruth, and
Right.
then they might carry it on. They might pass
Yes.
it on to their children, and so future generations are fearful of whatever it is. I remember, I don't know if you know Louise Hayes. She does Heal Your Life and a lot of these. Wayne Dyer. There's like a whole.
No.
Well,
Is he an author?
he's an author. He is just like you should just look him up, and he just recently passed away like within 5 years. But his whole thing is, it's this whole don't believe every what you think. Well, it's kind of like thoughts become things. And
Yeah.
so you really, really have to be conscious of what you think. And if you say, "Oh my gosh, I have the sniffles. 3 days from now, I'm going to get sick. It's probably going to last for 2 weeks," and then you pretty much believe in this little future that you've created, that's not even true. But you manifest it because you're so determined to believe in it.
Hmm.
So
Yes.
what she was saying, Louise Hayes, who's the publisher and author of many books, said it's almost like your grandparent taught you, touch the stove, it's hot, but you're going to be burned. And
Yeah.
then the parent says, yeah, I don't know why, but in our family, we touch the stove and we get burned, and we just do it. And it's passed on, and you know that you shouldn't do it,
Hmm.
but it's something. So I told my dad, I'm not going to raise my girls fearing the worst case scenarios, because he said, you
Do you
can't
know
let.
what mine was? Mine was turn the porch light on or you'll fall down the stairs.
Oh my gosh, you know what's funny? I mean, not really funny, but in Japan, I was upset, and my auntie and uncle had this wooden spiral staircase, and I did
Hmm.
not turn on the light because I was so upset.
Yeah.
My mom said, "Karen, take a shower. Karen, take a shower. Karen, take a shower," and I was like, "Ugh!" And so I ran down and broke my ankle. the
See,
night the
you are
night
proof.
I wasn't taught that.
Proof that the negative thoughts can. You didn't just help this.
And yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. But and I believe if you have that negative energy, it will transform into a negative event. But this is what happens to my students. I knew I was going to pass. I said I was going to pass. I said, I'm going to pass, I'm going to pass, I'm going to pass. And I failed. but they have to know that they also have to study. You can't
Mhm,
just be like, I'm going to pass, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. But you don't know what your subconscious is telling you.
mhm.
It's really retraining, right? Retraining the part of our brain that we're not even conscious of.
And I think getting back to the whole, the control thing that
Yes.
you and I struggle with, do you agree with me that we feel that if we control, then we'll save them from those negative thoughts? Like,
Oh,
the negative thoughts
definitely.
that we have, we need to control so that those don't happen. Like,
Because we'll save them from harm. And it's almost like you have the road less traveled, and I've heard parents say that if you just listen to what I say, your life
yes,
will be fine. But if you
yes.
don't listen to what I say, oh my gosh, your world is going to turn upside down and you will have a horrible, horrible life. And then
Mhm.
how does that empower our kids? Then when they do something wrong, right? I've been told, don't say, and I tell moms this, do not say, I told you so. Don't ever,
Oh,
ever
that's the
say that.
worst. Yeah.
And you can think it like, why did you go out with that boy? Could have told you. I could have saved you a
Yeah.
heartbreak.
Yeah.
Why did you fill in the blank? If you only
Mhm.
listen to me. And then we have to remember how we were when our parents tried to give us similar advice.
Yes. Yeah.
But so what's a good, I mean, there's never a right answer, but when you're in that moment struggling, seeing your child making, in the process of making that mistake, and then I'm finally realizing, and I said it out loud, which I shouldn't have, but I had to hear the words and said, you know what? I've released it. If you get fired, you get fired. If you're late, you're late. And I'm thinking, why did I say that? But then I have to hear it that this is your own journey, and I can't tell you what to do. I can say leave earlier, I can say all this, but ultimately it's your own journey. And no matter how it turns out, it'll be fine. And it doesn't sound positive, but I think I had to finally hear myself say it. So I do let go.
It's funny because I was kind of going down a similar road when you asked me that question. Because the last we've had many pleasant conversations since this, but the last not so pleasant conversation, I said to him, "It's your life, do what you want." And it was
Yes.
very sarcastic,
Yeah.
very, very sarcastic, with a little bit of hope of him saying, "No, mom, I'll do what you want."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You're praying for that tiny bit. Maybe they will get the message. So many moms have told me they just said this, but this is their rendition is. If you don't want to do your homework, you want to flunk, you want to repeat a grade, it's on you. I am not holding that burden anymore. Okay. So if you don't want to do it, don't do it. And I'm thinking, yeah, it's not a very, but you're frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. You know what has helped me on this topic now that I'm reflecting a little bit more? What has helped me is pointing out the positives. My son has a circle of friends that went down some different roads. They dropped out of college. They didn't. They made poor choices, and my son did not. So I will say, it'll all be worth it. Keep fighting, keep going to school. You won't regret this. It will be worth it. I'm proud of you.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so I try to reinforce that as much as I can so that, you know, if he's faced with some difficult choices or some options that um, aren't as good for his well-being, I'm hoping that he hears my voice. That 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 conversation that we had, whether it was a month or a year ago, he the pride and the fear of disappointment. I'm hoping that no matter how good or bad things are, I do hope that that fear of disappointment is something that keeps him going.
So the fear of disappointment in himself, or the fear of
No,
disappointing.
in me, and I suppose that's a little selfish, and I'll admit that. But what else is there?
I totally agree with you. How we feel and how we hope that we do have some sort of positive impact. on our children. And then
Hmm.
I recently looked at sometimes the worst experiences. Like you talk to a drug counselor and it's because they abuse drugs, right? You
Yeah.
talk to someone who maybe talks to kids who are bound to that path that they might end up in jail. And it's because they made the wrong choices. They ended
Mhm.
up in jail. And so now so it's like, because my older one graduated from college. My younger one, I'm not going to say allows, anxiety prevents her, or it has a hold on her to make the journey maybe a little bit longer. So my whole thing
Hmm.
is, trust that no matter where, because, I took 7 years, other people take 10 years, and there's no real timeline.
Hmm.
But what do you think about, like, when you do, what did you say, that you're hoping that disappointing you might motivate him?
Yeah, and it's so selfish and it's so twisted.
But you know what? But
And
I think a lot of us, I think it's human nature though to say,
yeah, yeah,
"Oh," but to help us release that, it's not really a need, but in a way, it's like it gives us a little bit of comfort. Like maybe that's going to be the motivating force for them to, but
I
it's
think that if we're going to help ourselves though, which is the bottom line,
it is the bottom line.
we both know what we battle, and it is up to us. We can't depend on other people or other sources for happiness. So the bottom line is us
Exactly.
fixing ourselves. And I think to help us fix ourselves, we have to start to trust more.
And
You know, I
that's, yeah,
I
that's
was
my
talking
whole
about my son
message.
quite a bit, and in the end, he's a good kid. He
Yeah.
really is a good kid.
Yeah.
He hasn't, other than stupid teenage stuff,
Yeah.
and that we've probably done a lot worse. Both of my kids are really wonderful human beings, and I need to trust more, um, and let go, and hopefully the more that I can begin to trust and not control, maybe somewhere in there is the break to my loop.
I totally believe that, and that's what that's my mission, to help parents trust and let go. That's the whole reason, or the motivation between behind that. Mama's got to let go, and I'm
Yeah.
still learning to let go. But I think
But
that
mama doesn't
is,
want to let go.
Mama doesn't want to let go. That's the thing. But knowing, and maybe it's reminding ourselves and having a little mama tribe whenever we get into this thing where, oh, I can't let it go. And then it's almost like an Alcoholics Anonymous thing, an AA thing, but we have like a mama's got to let go tribe to remind ourselves, wait a minute, is this your baggage to carry?
Right.
And I just
Right.
I just researched that emotional baggage that we could pass on to our kids. And if we're
Hmm.
to stop the cycle, it's what you just said. Trust,
You have
let
to.
go. And I noticed that 2-year depression, one of my worst ones that culminated in the book, when I let go, Chelsea did not flunk out of school. She did not, I
Hmm.
thought she was. I thought those
Hmm.
F's were going to, who knows, is she going to graduate? And when I let go, nothing horrible happened.
Has happened. Yes. My therapist said that to me. It is part of us working together. What would be the worst case scenario? And
And
kind of
hasn't happened. Hasn't
and it
happened.
hasn't happened. Yes, but in our twisted little sick minds, it could. Like what are the statistics of plane crashes? But because one happened a very, very, very long time ago, I'm going to hang on to that one negative possibility versus the thousands of flights that take place each and every day, because one thing happened. And in what was hard for me is that, I talk about a silly teenage, error in judgment because it happened just once. I'm asking people not to give me a life sentence. I can't do that to them because I'm a hypocrite if I do. And I struggled and I failed quite a few times, but
That's pretty
record.
powerful. What you just said about the life sentence.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm asking people to forgive me. I need to forgive as well. Am I good at it? No, I suck at it. But I recognize that it's I do. but I recognize that it's a weakness. It's not a good quality. And I just got to keep working. I, instead of pretending it doesn't exist, just keep working and know that I'm still going to probably mess up. But
Well, don't you think that's the first step though, awareness? I think
the
if you're
first
not
step is awareness.
aware,
Yeah.
yeah, if you're not aware, then you can't even start the healing journey.
Or if you're in denial, like if you're, this person that, obviously you made a mistake or said something wrong, and then like you're in just complete denial about it. I think that's even worse.
It is worse because at least if you have awareness, you think, okay, I can get to the point of apologizing or accepting that I'm wrong. And that ego of ours, and that's what you were saying, when we say what we maybe
Right.
they'll do this. Actually, do you feel that if you, somewhere in our twisted mind, if I'm a good mom, then they will do what is right, which is what I think they should do?
If I do everything right, now according to who? According to you or according to them? So if I do everything right, maybe they'll love me more. What?
Exactly. If I do everything right, which is only in my head, then nothing bad will happen to them.
Nothing bad will happen. Right. Because we can control the whole universe, right?
Yes, exactly.
We sure want to.
And then the pandemic hits and you're like, wait a minute, I did not prepare for that. But then
Nobody did.
nobody did. But like you said, when you focus on the positives, I wouldn't have been doing this with you. I wouldn't have been connecting to someone who totally gets what I, how I think and, the struggles we've experienced. And you're all the way in New York. I mean, who would have
Yeah.
thought that we
Who
would,
would have thought that a mental illness would have created friendships
because of the pandemic?
because of the pandemic? Yes. So a pandemic and mental illness has built really friendships that I'm really, really grateful for.
Yeah. So, I mean, thank you so much for this. I think, yeah, you and I can just talk for hours. We should definitely schedule time away from recording, but I wanted to, this, this is so powerful because I think a lot of moms who may not even realize that there's a mental illness, and that's why I was kind of getting you to define it, but it is hard to define it. But sometimes, do you agree that we might, or a mom, like we own it, we're vulnerable, we accept it, we announce it, but some moms might not even know that they suffer a mental illness because they just think, well, I'm not like that, or I'm not, in their mind they think mental illness is what's his name, Jack Nicholson in the what is it, cuckoo, the
One
one
flew over the cuckoo's nest.
and you just picture
Yeah.
this straight jacket and you picture this
Yeah.
mentally insane, like oh my gosh, that other girl who like the multi-personality thing where there is just, you're really really insane and they don't realize it could be something as simple as not getting over a death of a loved one. It
Right.
can be childhood, the word trauma, it can be, that can be a trigger, but something that happened in your childhood, as
Mhm.
simple as we never got into this, but like when I was 5, my parents were late picking me up. And they were probably late like 15 minutes, but in my, that can really be like a PTSD where you wonder for the rest of your life. And that's what happened when I landed on Kauai. I mean, like I had a cell phone. I could have asked, hey, are you on your way? But my fear is, what if, I don't know, the person's not going to pick you up? Or what if, put in your worst case scenario, all because of something that happened when we were in kindergarten.
Yeah, and we don't even realize it, but we stored it as data, and that data
Yes.
becomes a part of us, and it can be stored negatively depending on how we process it.
And that's debilitating in itself, though. And you don't realize that can cause some form of mental illness. It might not be as traumatic as, like what you and I go through is, it's like a, sometimes it can be a daily thing. Sometimes you're fine. And
Mhm.
sometimes, like you said, one little thing can happen. And then we fall apart because we think, oh no, the worst case
Mhm.
scenario might happen.
I know that it's not you. You had asked about, what you think like other moms or parents who are struggling but might not know that they're struggling. You and I are very different. You and I are,
Yeah.
have chosen to talk about it and put ourselves out there and be brave. But not everybody is, and nor would I expect them to. There's still, for some people, might be some embarrassment connected. Um, you know, a limit in their audience, but no matter what, I think the first step is to talk to somebody about it. Find out if this is really something, that you need help for, and admit that there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Nothing to be embarrassed for. And the first step in healing, like you said, is to reach out. Now that you said, you mentioned so many resources out there. When you and I were going through it, I mean, internet wasn't even around, you're thinking,
No.
like, I remember
Yeah.
in high school when I first thought of taking my life, I think I was like 18, and you don't even think, I mean, I thought it was a peaceful solution. I thought,
Hmm.
wow, if I do this, life will be perfect because I will no longer have to suffer.
Right.
And if we reach moms out there who even start talking about it, because we don't even know if they're teenagers, during the pandemic, mental illness, I mean, that, or just mental health issues
Hmm.
skyrocketed because kids couldn't socialize, parents didn't know what to do, and then it became it's an awkward topic.
Yes. And for somebody like myself, I depend on distractions. That's why nighttime is very difficult for me, because when it gets silent and dark, then all the things that
Hmm.
I dismissed through everyday distractions like work and routine and the gym, and the pandemic robbed us all who depend on routines just to get through the day and distract from that negative loop. um, again, the pandemic robbed us of that. So we didn't have those distractions. We were forced to sit home in these walls where it's quiet with nothing. And, that reopened a lot of layers for some people, along with the thoughts of being helpless and not knowing what to do. And those who have anxiety, with the worry, and it makes complete
Compounded.
sense. It
Yeah.
makes complete sense that more people were unfortunately looking at suicide as an option, and struggling worse than they ever have been, because of that.
Or feeling like failures, right? Because I mean,
Ah.
none of us could control anything. And then, wearing masks, forgetting to wear a mask. You're so used to wearing a mask, and the other day it's like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot. Especially if you're in the moment, and then
Mhm.
you grab your mask and you think, oh my gosh, people are going to think, what's wrong with you? Why don't you have your mask? And then other places, it's just you could never have predicted
No,
any of this.
never would have thought we would have lived through something like this.
You know what's strange? A couple years ago, my student was learning about the Black Plague, and I said, "Well, this is never going to happen now. We have medical, advances. I mean, we don't have to worry about this." And then we talked about it the other day. I'm like, "Remember a couple years ago?" Because she had to watch all these Black Plague videos, and how it was just something that was so horrific, and spread like crazy. And then we think, is that odd? So just like with mental illness, anxiety, depression, it's never going to go away, no matter how perfect, or it's not even perfect, but whatever you think you need. What's your closing statement? If you think you need blank in order to feel comfort, security, freedom, what do you think could be like something that could help us accept? My whole thing is choosing peace amidst chaos. How can we get a tiny bit of peace in the midst of that chaos? Like midnight, you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I can do this anymore. I go through that, like the parent coaching. Why am I doing this? Does it make a difference? Don't even continue. When you have that little moment. Any.
Yeah, yeah. Um, a lot of it for me is just letting go, surrendering, accepting that this is a part of you. It's not going to go away, but how you respond to it makes all the difference in the world. And if it is that late night and sometimes I'm up, I know that when I wake up in the morning, I'm going to feel better.
Yeah.
So this is just another one of those episodes, and you're going to get through it, and the world is not ending, and your son is okay. Go to sleep. You'll be a little tired tomorrow, but you'll get through it. You always do.
I
God, that
love that
sounded so good.
reminder.
Why can't I say, why
That
am I
was
not better at
good. That's
this?
a sound bite right there. That is like, wow, we have to play that whenever we feel that way. And it sounded so effortless. Like, of course. It's just letting
And
go. I
yeah,
love
it's that easy.
it's that easy. Just let go
Yeah,
and surrender. You'll be
yeah.
fine.
I don't know where that came from.
And this is us. We can't let go.
There's dishes in the sink.
Oh, I thought of you. I thought of
No,
you.
wait, I just heard my husband putting them away, so he probably hates me right now because he had to do that.
As soon as I walked in, we finally did this thing where, every day someone has to do dishes and we're rotating. I
Yeah,
felt guilty that I went to Kauai for the day. It was my husband's
yes,
day.
of
He,
course you did.
he well, he has pain from kidney stones. Whenever it's a health issue, am I going
Yeah,
to let him do his day?
yeah,
I didn't want my daughters to know that I did it for him. So as soon as they went to sleep, I'm like, and not even half an hour, 15 minutes after I came home, I'm like, are you hungry? All this stuff. And I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this, but something happens, guilt, watching someone in pain, feeling like, you know what? Come on, just do it.
it's the
Just do
worst. Yeah,
so the answer
I am
is
so glad. I'm so glad you can relate.
so the answer is let
Call
go.
Karen. That's my answer. My answer is the next time we call Karen and you set yourself up for that one.
Thank you. And also let go.
Let go. Mama's
Let
gotta.
go. Mama's gotta let go. Thank you so much, Sarah. You enjoy your Friday, and
Yeah,
I
me
will
too.
talk to you soon. We should just get
You will.
together.
My turn next. My turn next.
Good. Take
All
care.
right. Have a
Okay.
great weekend.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Bye.